My name is Rodney Davis, and I believe I'm a good person. That may sound like a very strange way to start a sermon, but let me tell you, it's taken me a lifetime to say it without hesitation and to believe it. As was mentioned earlier, I was born here in Newport, a city known for its wealth, though many of us live very far from it. I was raised by a single black mother doing everything she could do to survive. When life became too heavy, when the grief of losing her mother, her father coming down with a debilitating, lifelong illness, and the pressures of life as a single mom overwhelmed her, she needed help. So the state placed my sister and me into foster care so she could get well. I remember that day like it was yesterday. I was in the second grade. Mrs. Rice's class at Cranston Calvert. And the date was November the 8th. I had just turned 7 the day before. We didn't have a birthday party, but I did get a brand new Timex watch with a brown wristband. But I do remember my mother being swollen with tears for days and not understanding what was happening. I remember Rosemary Hanrahan, my social worker, placing us in the car. I had no idea where we were going. Fortunately, my sister Jennifer was very young and doesn't remember much of this. Our foster home was going to be 5 minutes from where my mother would be receiving treatment in Providence on Oxford Street. It is now where the Institute for Nonviolence is. But it might as well have been like another world. On my first day there, I was told by my foster mother, Ann Jackson, not to play with the cat. I was 7, and the cat did not understand rules. So I played with the cat. I heard a scream from the window, and I was called into the kitchen. I remember looking down at the green speckled linoleum floor that was in everyone's house. Standing there was my foster mother, holding a plastic-coated dog chain with a shiny clasp that would connect to the collar. It was not for the dog. She beat me so hard that I wet myself. I remember standing in the bathroom afterward, holding my clothes, frozen. Even at that age, I knew I wasn't a bad kid. I loved Godzilla and Batman. And yet, I was being treated as if I was. This was my introduction to know what it feels like to be powerless, to be harmed, to be told without words that you are not worthy of gentleness or love. The beatings continued, and I didn't say a word because who would believe me anyway? On August 17, 1974, that same foster mother got into an argument with my foster father, named Andrew Jackson. The fight got louder and louder. And then she went into her bedroom, and underneath, those giant stereo consoles in the 70s, and underneath there, wrapped in chamois cloth, was a .22 caliber pistol. She took it, passed through the bathroom into his bedroom, and she shot him and killed him. I still remember that green speckled linoleum floor, now covered in puddles of blood. Social workers came the next morning, as expected, and we were moved from that house to what was called the Children's Center, which is now where DCYF is. We stayed there for a while. I went to Robert F. Kennedy School for my third grade year after being at Flynn School for my second, completing. And then we went to another foster home on Potters Avenue in Providence, and then eventually back home to Newport in 1975. But I carried something with me. Not just fear, not just trauma, but anger. Anger at my foster parents. Anger at my family who didn't rescue us. Anger of not having a father who cared. Anger at the system. Anger at a world where a little black boy could be invisible in his suffering. And in many ways, that feeling that little black boy had still exists today and stands in front of you right now. And that was only the beginning. Because later in my life, I would be told again that I am not a good person. This time not by my foster parents, but by my faith community, which I loved. When I embraced the truth that I was gay, I was expelled, shunned, disfellowshipped, erased. One of my favorite scriptures when I served in the ministry came from the 27th Psalm, and I used to quote it often. And it said, "Even if my own father and mother abandoned me, Jehovah himself would take me in." At that time, I believed those words were about faith and comfort. What I was not prepared for was having almost everyone, including God, leave me then and today. So I ask you, what does forgiveness look like when the harm is real? When the wounds are not theoretical? When injustice has a face and it is not your enemy? You see, forgiveness sounds beautiful in theory. Living it, ooh, that's the challenge. And it's interesting, forgiveness is built into the framework of belief systems of many people. In fact, one of the most quoted passages in the Bible, spoken by billions of people, speaks directly to it. It's found in the book of Matthew, chapter 6. And it is known as the Lord's Prayer. And one line in that prayer says, "And forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors." Another rendition of it is, "And forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us." Forgive us our debts. implies that there is a cost on both sides for that forgiveness. Forgive us of our trespasses reminds us that we will cross that line sometimes, and be assured others will do the same. In both cases, forgiveness is required if we're ever to begin again. We even use this language in our common vernacular. We go to the bank looking for loan forgiveness, a release from our debt, or, as they say in the commercials, a fresh start. You see, forgiveness allows us to let anger go. Because the words of the Buddha are also so true. Where he said, holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one getting burned. I have carried that hot coal for many years. I have the scars to prove it. We talk about forgiveness as if it's a virtue, that it should come naturally. As if good people forgive easily. As if maturity or spirituality automatically produces grace. But if we're honest, really honest, forgiveness is not natural. Our natural instinct is memory. Our natural instinct is protection. Our natural instinct is justice. When we are hurt, something inside of us says, remember this, guard yourself, don't let it happen again. And that instinct is not evil, it's human. It's the part of us that survives. So the challenge of forgiveness begins here, not by denying our anger, not pretending we weren't harmed, but acknowledging that forgiveness asks us to step beyond our first instinct. It's not saying what happened was acceptable by any means. And it's not inviting harm back into our lives. But it is this. Forgiveness is the decision to stop carrying that injury as our identity. Forgiveness is the decision to stop carrying the injury as our identity. There is no add water instant solution. It is often slow, sometimes very uneven, and sometimes when we think we have forgiven, and then the memory returns sharp as ever, like it was yesterday. Because forgiveness is not a single act. It is a practice. And like any practice, it requires discipline. There is a misunderstanding that forgiveness is primarily about the other person, that we forgive them. But more often, forgiveness is an act of liberation inward. Resentment is heavy. Bitterness is heavy. Grievance is heavy. They ask us to rehearse our wounds over and over and over again. Forgiveness does not deny the past. It just releases its control. And that is why forgiveness is frightening. Because pain can feel like power. Pain can make you feel like the proof of what happened mattered. Letting go feels like betrayal. But forgiveness is not betrayal. It's transformation. Because every one of us depends on forgiveness from family, community, friends, and often ourselves. Self-forgiveness might be probably the most difficult form of all. Because, I don't know about you, we replay our mistakes and we hold ourselves to an impossible standard. But punishment alone does not produce wisdom. Reflection does. Compassion does. Repair does. Forgiving ourselves is not excusing our actions, however. It is choosing to learn from them instead of being defined by them. It's saying, I'm responsible, and I am still worthy. Forgiveness always contains risk, because when we forgive, we risk vulnerability. We risk disappointment. We risk the possibility that the other person will not change. But the alternative is a world governed by fear and retribution. A world where no one can begin again. All we need to do is turn on the news today to see this lab in action. Forgiveness creates space for beginning again. Not cheaply, not automatically, and not without accountability, but with hope. And hope is not passive, because hope is a discipline. It is the choice to believe that healing is possible, even when evidence is incomplete. Some might say that's faith. Forgiveness is hope in action. As Scripture says, faith without works is dead. I had to put forgiveness into action myself, because on February of 2018, my mother was diagnosed with vascular dementia. Because we no longer associated with each other as she wished, I didn't see any signs because I never saw her. And because communication was limited with family, there was not enough information to understand certain things. So my Uncle Robert took her to Rhode Island Hospital to be evaluated. She never returned home. And I, by default, became the lead caretaker after not talking with her for over 20 years. Together with my sister, my aunt, and my uncle, who are all Jehovah's Witnesses, we navigated a new world, and it wasn't easy. But forgiveness allowed me to look beyond her faults and see her need. It allowed me to meet her where she was. And for the most part, she was safe. She was happy. She was living at 70 Harrison Avenue at Village House for 5 years. I'm reminded especially of this fact because the day that this talk was originally delivered here at Channing was the anniversary of her death on March the 8th, 2023. She was on hospice for less than 24 hours. She got the call from Village House. Jennifer called and said, we're going to do this. This is the process. And that was at 9 a.m. I was still working at United Way of Rhode Island in Providence. By 2 o'clock in the morning, I got a phone call that she passed. I drove from Coventry to Newport. I gathered her things, and I drove home. And that night, I slept the deepest sleep I have ever had in 5 years. Because everything between us had finally been forgiven. Forgiveness did not erase the past, but it gave us peace in the present. It reminded me of something that I have struggled to believe for much of my life, that even after anger, loss, and broken relationships, we are still capable of becoming whole again. As is my tradition when I preach here at Channing, I always end with a song. I have sung this song for friends who have passed, for displays of the age quilt, and for moments when we remember those to whom we have loved and lost. And you know, it reminds me of something real life that happens. I'm going to deviate real quick. I love telling stories. New Year's Eve, I was really not feeling joyful about much. So a friend of mine was like, we need to go out. We're going to go downtown to Providence. They had this amazing New Year's Eve celebration. And so I'm like, and I go. And so we go into this hospitality tent. And this young man by the name of Adrian, we all know him as Paris, Fernandez, comes popping in. And he's like, hey, how you doing? Hugging him and everything else. And he comes up to me and he goes, what are you looking for the new year? And I'm like, relief. But we really had a really interesting conversation. And when it was all said and done, and he was about to head out because he was working the event. He worked events. He was an artist in Providence and worked with the Providence Tourism Council and with the City of Providence and the Arts, Culture, and Tourism. He was just loved. He was at AS220. He did a lot of things. He was 29. He had all this energy. And I'm reminded that we need to remember when the angels whisper something in our ears. Because what I said after to him about what I want to think about for the new year is that this one thing. Life is a gift. It is meant to be lived and not lost. The significance of that is the fact that this 29-year-old man, 3 days later, died. Life is a gift. It is meant to be lived and not lost. So today, I sing that song to you, to Paris, and myself. And the song is entitled, Don't Cry. And it sounds like this. Here we are again, that old familiar place, where the winds will blow, no one ever knows the time or space. Don't cry for me, don't shed a tear. The time I shed with you will always be. And when I'm gone, please carry on. Don't cry for me. No one is the blame. My death was meant to be. Don't carry guilt or shame. The reason why I came soon you will see. Don't cry for me. Don't shed a tear. The time I shared with you will always be. And when I'm gone, please carry on. Don't cry for me, no. Don't cry when life is not the joy it could be. With life comes pain. Soon time will end its course appointed, and you will be rewarded, and all the world will see. Don't cry for me. Don't shed a tear. The time I share with you will always be. And when I'm gone, love will carry on. Don't cry for me. Don't cry for